All right, we're back.
We're back, Kelly. I'm so proud of us. We bounced back so quickly.
I feel like that was out of your control, though, right? Like whether or not you.
I'm still allowed to be proud of us.
Okay.
Mostly out of our control. So, as Kelly may have told you yesterday, we were a little bit down here in the house. We had like either like a 24-hour flu or a bit of food poisoning with everything you could imagine that's involved in that. That's what was happening here in our Paris apartment. So,
and people kept being like, "Oh, you haven't gotten sick yet," and I was like, "No, I left."
Kelly wisely left and checked into a hotel and avoided the flu bug. But anyway, it was 24 hours, and we're mostly. I'd say I'm at 90% better.
Okay, good. And then I do feel like we did have a little bit of a lull there, a little pause on everything, but now we're gonna go back out to the streets, hit the streets of Paris again.
Hit the ground running.
Right.
I was kind of disappointed to miss the track last night, which we're going to hear about later. It sounds like it was an exciting evening, so I'm very keen. I haven't got all the updates yet because we're going to get them for the podcast
live and in person.
Yeah.
All right, so today we were going to talk about. I was at the first 2 nights of track. Well, everybody else was sick, and we went to trampoline before everybody got sick. So there's just all kinds of things happening, and then we'll see what's coming up next. But first, we're going to thank our sponsors.
Historically, athletic footwear has been designed, researched, and tested for men. Brands have relied on the shrink it and pink it approach to sell male shoes to female customers. That's why we are so excited Heddas is working with us on our Paris coverage. Heddas is building high-performance, technical running shoes for women from the ground up. They operate from a purely female perspective, which we love, and their mission is to ensure the female running experience gets the funding, research, and recognition it deserves. Heddas has unlocked the science behind women's biomechanics through dedicated research and creates better shoes for women's performance. Some of Heddas' special features include a lower ankle collar to reduce rubbing on women's ankle bones, a breathable mesh toe box to allow for ventilation and accommodate female toe shape, and a supercritical foam and Pebex plate midsole to keep our legs going when the going gets tough. Heddas has 3 shoe models designed for different sessions: the Alma Cruise for long runs, the Alma Tempo for training days, and the Alma Speed for pushing the pace. Celebrate the outstanding performances at the Olympics with your own pair of Heddas. Use the code Feisty20 for 20% off at heddas.com. That's Feisty20 for 20% off at heddas.com. If you're like us, you're totally inspired by Katie Ledecky and Summer McIntosh and more ready than ever to up your swim training. So let's take a minute to talk about hair and skincare for swimmers. You've probably asked yourself questions like, how can I keep my hair healthy and hydrated as a swimmer? How can I avoid my skin feeling itchy and dry after being in the pool? And how can I get rid of those pesky goggle marks around my eyes? Enter TryHard. TryHard has pre- and post-swim solutions designed to reduce the absorption of pool and ocean chemicals into your hair and skin. We love using TryHard's pre- and post-swim conditioner before and after every swim to keep our hair feeling great. TryHard also has a bunch of other products useful for swimmers, like their pre- and post-swim eye gel, which totally works for getting rid of those pesky goggle marks and puffy eye feeling, while providing hydration and a cooling effect. TryHard products are vegan, dermatologically tested, and packaged in recycled plastic. Whether you're swimming in the pool, the ocean, or maybe even the Seine, take care of your hair and skin with TryHard. Use the code FEISTYGAMES for 22% off site-wide at tryhard.co. Plus, you'll get an extra 5% off during sales on top of the already discounted price. That's Feisty Games for 22% off at tryhard.co.
Okay, Kelly, we are back.
You just said that before. Yeah. All right.
But I realized that as we were talking earlier, I'm like, oh, I'm not 100% fat.
Really? That's weird. Shocking.
I'm maybe at 80 or 90%.
Okay.
But I am very keen to hear about track. It looks like it was an exciting night. There was an exciting race in the 4x400, the 100. There were countries getting medals who had never got medals before. Where should we start?
Well, I feel like we should start with trampoline.
Oh,
right. So before everybody even got sick, we went to trampoline gymnastics. And And I feel like the thing about the Olympics is, I was thinking about this. All gold medals are equal. It doesn't
Oh.
one would think, like, obviously they're the ones that are more highly coveted, right? The
Mhm.
all around gymnastics.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, it's the same as the trap shooting.
Yeah.
Right? You have a
Yeah.
gold medal, you have a gold medal.
Yeah. For sure.
So I didn't know anything about trampoline gymnastics before. I'm deeply invested in the Russian strategy versus the Great Britain strategy. Because did you notice that scoring is based on time and air
Yes.
and execution and difficulty?
Yes.
And some teams were clearly like moneyballing the system to spend more time in air.
Oh, interesting. I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
To spend more time in air.
Right.
So how were they doing that?
I don't know like how you do it, but they were like they had like lower difficulty,
Right.
but much higher time in air.
And it didn't pay off for them.
It didn't pay off because then in the end, the Team GB woman won. And it's like, again, we knew nothing about trampoline going in. Then turns out she had a bronze medal and a silver medal from last year Olympics and is 33 and on her third Olympics at gold. And now you're like deeply invested in this person.
Okay, to be fair,
you just heard of.
To be fair, yes, that's all true. To be fair, I knew a little bit about trampoline because we have a great Canadian champion in Rosie McClellan.
Okay.
And honestly, it's one of those who won gold in 2012 and 2016. And it's one of those like cases that we talked about earlier where like if someone from your country wins gold in a smaller sport, like that sport then becomes more popular in that country. So I feel like in Canada, we kind of had this sense, like trampolining definitely came closer to the top of my list of like, and I remember learning about the details of it, like at the last few Olympics. I just don't remember per usual. Also, when I put it on my Instagram story, one of my friends from high school's younger sister sent me a message and she said, I have a picture of you and Vivian, who is my friend, in the trampolining competition in high school.
Oh, really? You guys had a trampoline?
I remembered that we had a trampoline and I was probably someone who entered every competition.
Sure.
But I don't really remember. Well, actually, I didn't remember until she said it. And then I remember like, this is like a real person doing something versus them doing something. But I remember like doing like with the competition included, you had to do certain moves. So like you would jump, how high you jumped would be a thing, right? Or time, that would be time in air. And then like, you would go like to your knees
and then come back
and then come back. Or like, you know, like when you're on trampoline, land on your back.
Right.
Come back. Like that kind of stuff. So after she said it, I was like, okay, I have a clear memory of trampoline.
But it apparently wasn't your future sport.
No, it was not.
Canada also got the bronze, which was pretty exciting.
It was exciting.
Did you feel very patriotic?
Oh yeah. Okay. And it was like a nail biter too. Yeah, you weren't sitting with us. Yeah, it was like very close whether she was going to, because there's unfortunately was she the Chinese girl? Am I remembering correctly?
The very last girl to go is Chinese girl and she fell.
Yeah, who clearly was one of the favorites and she fell. So and then our Canadian, and she unfortunately fell, and then our Canadian ended up staying in her bronze medal position in the final. So yeah,
it was exciting.
It was.
And it was I mean, we've been talking about how they're really reusing a lot of the venues. So it was the gymnastics venue, and then they just kind of like put trampolines down. But you could see that they still had like the vault area set up, and then they were transitioning back to like individual events for gymnastics later tonight, which is interesting.
And we were actually in the third row.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, it was one of those times because a lot of like when you're buying, I don't know about you, when I'm buying the tickets, like I'm not going back and forth to look at where we're seated, especially because the tickets are going so fast.
Tickets are going so fast.
You can't hit buy, you know? And so we quite accidentally ended up in the third row. Well, so it was pretty fun.
So yeah, along with, we've been trying to like mix up like going to sports we haven't heard of or different sports. And then obviously you got to go to the big ones too. And so I went to the first 2 nights of track. The chairs are very uncomfortable.
Oh,
that's my major takeaway from the track stadium.
Really? Was it the same stadium as the rugby?
Yeah, wildly uncomfortable. Even Ella, who was with me, and she had also been to rugby, agreed. Somehow it is more uncomfortable in track.
During track?
Yes. It's a mystery how this works.
This all makes total sense. I'm just gonna roll with that.
Opening night, we went. Me and Steve went, and it was a lot. At one point I was like, you know, people are always talking about, why isn't track should go like global, mainstream, right? Like it should be a mainstream sport. It's one of the easiest sports to follow. Like, why doesn't it have more money? Why doesn't it have more TV broadcasts? And sitting there, I was like, because there's a lot of waiting.
There's a lot of waiting.
There's a lot, but when you're in the early prelims and there are 8 heats of the 800, and between every one, somebody has to like remeasure how far things are apart.
Right.
Oof.
Okay, to be fair, track is pretty mainstream in Europe. Like on Eurosport, or when I was living in the UK, like you can watch track on TV. Like you can watch a lot of the big track meets like on mainstream television, like out of prime time.
Sure, but it's not just like, this is not just, I mean, obviously like Americans are like, there's been a bit, there's all these new track meets coming next year. This whole like push to try and like, how can we make it like make these main like huge global names? But it's not just an American thing. Like that's not just an American sentiment. There's also like, sure, you can see it on TV, but they're not like superstars. And there's this idea that like, how come we can't make them superstars? And I would just like to say, having sat through a global international 2 days of track meet now, you are not going to make them superstars by like taking 4 minutes between every hammer throw to like remeasure the circle.
Right.
Like it is like you're making a thing that is exciting, like kind of shockingly boring.
Right. So to make them into superstars, you're saying like that because that's a push to make the live sport more interesting.
Right.
Because like that's why when it's on TV, you're like cut to this.
Oh yeah.
And you're suddenly watching like
Something
watching an
else.
800 meter race, and then you're watching someone throw the javelin, and then you're watching someone do long jump, and then you're like switch and you go back to this, back to that. And that's clearly why it's an attempt to make it
more exciting. But I was thinking about like when you think about, again, like obviously it's US, but like basketball, football, even like soccer, right? Like they have to play, like they play what they play, right? Like we're not out there like arguing about some nitpicky little rule that like, and so anyway, I just felt like track was getting in its own way a lot because when they actually were going, it was very exciting.
Right.
And in between, you like had to get up and wander around and try and find a concession stand that hadn't run out of food, right? So
I saw a post yesterday that was like, I totally want to get involved in any Olympic sports that's less than 30 seconds.
Yes.
And like that describes most of track.
But there was lots of waiting. So the first night, especially because it was a prelim night, and somehow, like, I don't know, you buy tickets here and it tells you when the session starts, but it doesn't always, like, you have to like look up what's actually in the session. And I hadn't like deeply looked it up. So somehow we were there for 5 hours, right? You're like, how did that happen?
You guys were there for 5 hours?
Yeah, you were like throwing up.
I did not notice what time you came, what time Ella came home.
So no, we were there. But then last night we went, last night, took your tickets and went to the 100-meter final for women, the 4x4 mixed relay, which was very exciting. And so then you're starting to have finals and starts to be more exciting. And the crowd, and the whole crowd, the stadium was full then. They were not full the opening night. And the crowd gets really into it. Yeah. Like insanely into it.
That's amazing. Like with 60,000 people getting really into it, that almost makes anything exciting. So tell us what happened in the 4x400.
Right. So the 4x4 mixed relay, I feel like we should do a mini explainer on mixed relays. So all these sports are trying to do these mixed relays now, and it's 2 women and 2 men in every sport. And in each of the sports, what they do is each person does the entirety of whatever that thing is. So in triathlon, they do an entire mini triathlon. Right. In track, obviously they have existing track relays. So each person runs a 400. But they also do like mixed team in fencing now. They do mixed team and like, yeah, they do them in like all these sports. So each person does like a whole thing, and
then
still
hand off. The 4x400 in each gender as well?
Yeah, they still do them in each gender. Okay. This is part of the whole, like, we're going to add more events for more medals, for more TV, but not add more people. Yeah. So they also switch order every Olympics. So this year, all the mixed relays go male, woman, male, woman. So that was how it went yesterday. And so the US like had set a world record in the prelims. On when we were there the first night, and so they were kind of the favorites because they ran a world record. And they were ahead. Wow! And in the last lap, and there was a French team too, so the crowd was going crazy and everyone was screaming. And I have to say, I feel like a lot of people were screaming for the Netherlands girl, Femke Bol, who's like, if anyone knows, Femke Bol is really, really good. She just has the misfortune of being the best 400-meter hurdle runner in the same age as Sydney McLaughlin. Right. So she gets beat all the time by her, but she's very, very, very good. And so she came back like in the final 50, went from like 4th to 1st and outleaned the US. And I feel like the entire stadium was screaming for her, like to beat the US. Yeah.
That's what's been really amazing about some of the French crowds is that they will get behind.
They switch allegiances
anybody.
Quickly.
Yeah. They just like, they're cheering for their French folks for sure.
For sure.
But then like it will switch. when
Definitely
when
switch.
appropriate too, like to make the vibe right. You know?
So that was pretty. I mean, apparently it's her first gold medal because again, she's just sort of had this unfortunate like. She would have won multiple medals, but or she has won multiple medals. She would have won multiple golds, but Sydney McLaughlin has beat her. So it was apparently her first gold medal. So that was pretty cool. And then we saw the 100, which is what everyone's there for. Like
Right.
which
is originally why I purchased those.
You were originally
tickets.
you purchased it. We were kind of surrounded by Jamaicans, and Shelly Ann Fraser just like didn't show up in the semi, and you should have heard like around us like the wow, what is Shelly Ann should be in the seat? Where is Shelly? And the group chat, the Jamaican group chat started blowing up. I could tell like over the shoulder woman in front of me, there was some. I told you she wasn't going to be there, but so clearly.
I had seen on,
it was a thing,
on Insta that she had dropped out.
But there was no announcement. So that's the other thing. In the track stadium, they really don't give you a lot of context of like what's happened. Or maybe they do in French, but the English version is not.
I did notice at trampoline that if you understood French, you understood more of what was going on. But even then, there's not a lot. It's not like watching an event.
Not
with
a lot
commentary.
of context, no.
Like you have to, especially something like trampoline, where you had to figure out what was going on.
So they
and how the
didn't
scoring
even
was.
say that she was pulling out at first. I was just like, wait, what is happening? She should be in the seat. So that was kind of sad. The Jamaicans around us were not happy. And then the final was Sha'Carri, and she did get a bad start, I will say for sure. But St. Lucia beat her, and won their first Olympic medal ever. They apparently did not have a Olympic committee until like 1987 or something like that.
Really? Okay, she was called Julian Alfred.
She is currently called.
Also still today called
still.
Julian Alfred.
So that was like, so it's not just that they won their first gold medal, the first medal ever. They have only been in Olympics since like 1990 or 1982. Never been to a Winter Olympics, so whichever summer one that is. So it was a big deal. It was pretty dramatic. And then this girl from Dominica won the triple jump also, which is also a tiny island over there. So it was a big night for the islands.
Wow, and it was also their first Olympic medal.
First Olympic medal.
That's exciting.
So it was pretty. We did have to look up where all of these islands were.
Right.
While we were.
Sounds like I missed a really good night of track.
The announcer, this is the kind of announcements you get in the stadium. They said, for the 5th Olympics in a row, a runner from the Caribbean takes the gold medal. And you're like, yeah, all the others were Jamaica? I feel like that's a weird way to phrase it.
It is a weird way to phrase it.
So, but track has started now. Swimming's wrapping up today. So we're kind of like shifting from swimming to track as like the main. I feel like for a lot of people, track is the Olympics.
Yeah,
like I have a friend here who's going
swimming,
to track.
Week 2 track is kind of
a friend going to track every single day.
Every day.
Every day.
To be fair, we have 5 sets of tickets between us.
Track, yeah. But I was like, man, don't you want to see other
things?
Other things besides track?
Yeah.
So it's also a trek, out to track. It's like you have
to be an athlete just to get there.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I am walking like 8 miles a day in this whole.
Are you really?
Oh yeah.
8 miles.
It's like a 1.5 mile walk from the train to the track stadium.
Like my Oura ring definitely tells me that I'm like busting all of my it's like, well done. You've surpassed your whatever my workout goals are, my energy expenditure goals. Okay, so I'm kind of excited about this, but we have a tradition on me and Kelly's podcast of having Kelly's family members join us on the podcast. If anyone listened to If We Were Riding in the early days, Kelly's mom was like a regular.
True.
She regularly phoned in.
She's been having thoughts on this too. She's listening right now. Yeah.
Debbie, you can send in your thoughts. We would play them. But last night, Kelly's husband, Steve, went to the urban park, and we're going to take a little break. And after that, we're going to hear from Steve.
Here at Feisty, we are dedicated to partnering with brands that are mission-driven and having an impact. That's why we are thrilled to be supported by Joni, a company creating game-changing period care for everybody. Many conventional menstrual products rely on plastic made from petroleum, a non-renewable resource. Did you know that in the US, approximately 12 billion pads and 7 billion tampons are discarded annually, and these products generate over 200,000 tons of plastic waste per year? It can take 500 to 800 years for a single petroleum-based plastic disposable pad to decompose due to its materials, And tampons with applicators also contribute to plastic waste, which can take centuries to break down. Joni is dedicated to bring the wasteful and antiquated feminine hygiene industry into the 21st century. Using a design-led approach, Joni's personal care products and commercial dispensers provide the most innovative and accessible period and leak care solutions in the world. Organic and free of harmful levels of chemicals or irritating fragrances, Joni's pads and tampons support menstrual health and the environment, while allocating at least 2% of revenues to break the cycle of period poverty, dismantle menstrual stigmas, and empower periods. Now that's what we call 21st century period care. Ditch uninspiring and irritating feminine hygiene products and say hi to Joni's silky soft, super absorbent, and toxin-free pads and tampons. Joni pads feature a wrapper and protective layer made from cornstarch, a plant-based material, making them biodegradable and compostable in the right conditions. Joni tampons are made with organic cotton. They're compostable, including the wrapper, which is made of cellulose. Choosing sustainable period products isn't just a trend, it's a movement. You can get 10% off your order with the code Feisty at getjoni.com. That's 10% off at GETJONI.com with the code Feisty.
All right, so you can pick up random tickets in Paris here. Not like weird, not like on the street, like on a website. And yesterday, Steve bought last minute tickets to 3x3 basketball. You had no idea who was playing.
Mine were actually from the street.
Yours were from the street, your tickets. And you went, and it ended up being the US and Canada. And I wanted you to tell us, because none of us have been to the urban park yet. So what the fuck is the urban park?
Canada played Australia, actually.
Right, but then
and the US played China. So the urban park is it's like in a park next to some museum.
Yeah, there's a lot of museums, but it's like, but they have like a bunch of sports there.
Yeah.
But not when you went.
No,
because
it was pouring rain. It was pouring rain when I went. But it's a cool venue. It's like right by the Louvre, right by the big Calderon balloon that you can kind of see taking off in the evening.
Oh, that's where the flame is.
It's
in the
right by the
balloon.
flame, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that's there. I think there's also BMX there.
Right.
The basketball venue was cool. It definitely had a bit of an X game feel. But it was like, it was a good venue.
The reason that there wasn't things happening is because it started pouring rain, and we were at the track stadium, but we were covered, but you guys were not covered.
No, we were sheltering in like the little like food stations, trying to find ponchos.
Excellent. But it is one of the few areas where there is like a bunch of sports going on. There's like an official Paris store. There's like actually big crowds.
Yeah, I'd say the store was a little bigger than the other venues. You had to walk into it. There was a line to find out you couldn't get a poncho.
They ran out of ponchos.
The ponchos were a hot item. They were, in addition to being very necessary, they were sick. They were incredible.
Cool ponchos.
Best clothing item you can get here.
Good. All right. I'm glad we've established. And then 3x3. So Sarah's very keen on 3x3 basketball. Mm-hmm. She says it's going to be the next big sport.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was like commentated on, I think, by two DJs.
Okay.
One was speaking French and one was speaking English. And they not only say what's going on, they give their thoughts in color commentary. A lot of cool additions. Like, she must be a ballerina. That's 2 2s.
Oh, that's 2 2s.
Because in 3-on-3 basketball, you get 1 point for a normal basket, like a layup or
really?
anything within the 3-point zone. And a 3-point is worth 2 points.
Oh, huh. Mm-hmm. Who knew?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they basically took like pickup basketball and made it like a whole other thing.
They did a really good job of capturing like pickup, like playground basketball, obviously at a very competitive, like incredible athletic level in the Olympics. And you get more of that in person than on TV. I'll admit that on TV, it sort of looked a little like, I don't know exactly what this is that they're doing here, right. But it was like definitely like very good people playing at a park, obviously surrounded by temporary stands for 10,000 people. Right. That had a sing-along in between the two games.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah. The DJs got out there to hype it up. Yeah.
Good.
Some French song, cell phone lights. Yeah. You all would love it.
You all would love it. All right. Yeah, because one of the things we've been talking about a lot is there isn't like a central location. We've been like, you have to go like 30 minutes out to the track stadium and the swim stadium. And then we keep like looking for tickets. And then it turns out like, oh, the soccer game's 2.5 hours away. And
it was in Belgium.
It was in Belgium. We were not going to go to that. I mean, they're back here now in the Paris, but there are a few places where there's a bunch of stuff. One one of those being kind of this urban park. And then there's also like the Eiffel Tower has like I mean, obviously it has beach volleyball, but it also has like, what are they calling it? Park of Champions. Yeah.
Yeah, there will be champions.
There will be champions there. So there's a few places where you can really, and I do feel like some of those, the tourists are also mixing them with the
totally. I mean, it's like it was hard to get to this one because it was like all the normal tourists plus Olympic people, which was, I mean, it was cool. It had like a lot of French stuff, monuments in the park, like in between the Olympic venues in there.
So if you're looking for your Olympic, actual
like,
Olympic
they did
feel,
executions there. Now they do BMX biking.
There you go. There you go. That's what we were looking for. I mean, that is how, like, we were at our hotel last night because we didn't want to get the flu. And it turns out there were like the catacombs across the street from our hotel. Like
a lot of death in the city.
Oh no. But if you're actually in Paris and you want like Olympic feel, you should go to one of these like key spots where there's like big crowds, tourists.
It's the right combo. It's what makes it a special Olympics, right? So, the Olympics happen lots of places and they're always special, but this one's happening in like incredible world-class city.
Yeah. So, all right, Sarah's going to come back and tell us what she's looking forward to. Thank you, Steve, for visiting our podcast.
Yay, Steve. I feel a little scared that the audience is going to prefer Steve to me.
Oh, yeah. So you guys are going to go to the urban park now.
Oh, my gosh.
Steve, we're still recording. You can talk on our recording.
Steve just convinced me that the urban park is the place to be. So I'm definitely excited to go.
Okay, good. But we're not going there tonight. Today we're going to the road race, cycling road race.
Yeah.
And then I'm going last day of swimming. What else are you guys looking forward to?
I am looking forward to the tri relay
in the morning tomorrow.
Is that tomorrow morning? Okay, tomorrow morning. So that's before our next podcast recording. And I'm gonna have my makeup track day.
Oh, right. You're going to track.
Yeah. So I'm excited.
I do feel like, yes. So the mixed tri relay is before we talk again, before we're back with our daily updates. And I feel like we kind of just explained it. A lot of people have a lot of questions about mixed tri relay, about mixed relay in general. Each person does a mini triathlon.
Yeah. Okay, my point about mixed tri relay is I think they should do it at more triathlon races for everyday people, where you have 4 people and you each do a tiny short triathlon. That doesn't have to specifically be the Olympic distance. So any race organizers listening,
in all fairness, it's not the Olympic distance. It's like a super sprint.
No, it doesn't have.
Okay.
Sorry, I meant the distance they do in the Olympics. It could be any super short triathlon that takes takes people 20 minutes to half an hour, where you just swim, bike, run real quick. Yeah.
We've been talking about what would you change if you could change it, if you had a wild idea. Oh, yeah. Here's the best one I heard today. At the end of the Olympics, we should let all the athletes try other sports.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Put LeBron on the trampoline. Let Simone try shooting.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Actually, because they're looking for like more things people will watch with the same athletes.
Right. I would watch that.
Boom. That's your idea right there.
All right. So we will probably be back tomorrow, assuming
nobody goes down with the flu. We will see you tomorrow. Talk to you tomorrow.